When I was a kid, I grew up in a house where I was scared a lot. I had an older brother who was, I call him a terrorist. I never felt safe in my home, and I never felt like my relationship with my brother was a safe one. And so pretty much the primary male relationship other than my dad was one where I never felt okay to express myself. I never felt okay and safe being seen. And I didn't really know how that was affecting me at the time. But what I now know is that I grew up afraid of other guys, afraid to really express myself and to be friends with other guys. And lo and behold, when I became a teenager, the number one thing for me was loneliness. I was so alone. I felt so isolated in the world. And consequently, I turned to drugs. And soon enough, I ended up in rehab, actually. And I actually made a big turnaround in rehab because I think a big part of that program was these groups where I was sitting with other guys. And we sat together in an intimate space, in a healing space, and we shared deeply together. And that was a hugely transformational part of my life, and I turned things around. And in my adult life, I have found the same value in connecting with other men in the same way. And that's why I'm sharing this with the world. There's all this stuff right now about masculinity and about men being lost and men killing themselves, the suicide rate being huge for men. Men are in trouble. And a lot of people have their ideas for what the solution should be. And I think pretty much the most important factor in the healing of men is men dealing with the fact that they're isolated from each other. They're isolated from the world. The fact that most men in their 30s don't have another man that they could identify as a best friend, someone that they could turn to when things aren't okay or when they need help at a deep level, someone that they could share their feelings with. Most guys don't have that. That's a huge problem. That is a huge problem, and it's contributing to everything we're seeing: murder rates, suicide rates, divorce rates. You know, the isolation of men is a massive problem. And my solution to that, what I understand now, is men connecting to each other in a circle, in the same way that I did in rehab and in the way that I do now in the brotherhood circle that I'm in. And I want people to know that that is there. So what I'm a part of now is the Samurai Brotherhood, and it doesn't have to be the Samurai Brotherhood. Find something that works for you. But this story is really just about men finding an opportunity to heal their stuff that they may not even know needs healing. But if you're isolated, if you don't have a really tight group of guys who have your back in the hardest moments and who challenge you to be better, you need one. That's just it. So what do we do in men's groups? Why are they useful for guys? I'm gonna do a few videos about that. Number one, accountability. Guys are often good at following through on promises that they make to their employer or to other people. And when it comes to making promises to themselves, stuff that's going to further their personal growth, stuff that is going to help them relax in a good way, in a healthy way, stuff that contributes to their overall health, they suck at following through on those promises to themselves. You know, I've made so many promises to myself that I just kind of conveniently forget because I put other things first. And one of the things that we do in men's groups is we listen to each other's goals and promises that are being made to improve our lives in whatever way that we want to improve them. And then we hold each other accountable to those things. We light a fire under each other's asses to get those things done. And it's amazing what guys get done when they have a team of dudes behind them who believe in their vision. So that's one of the things that we do in men's group. And it's so simple. It's such a simple concept, but it is amazing what you can see a guy do with his life that he's been delaying for years. When you get a bunch of guys behind him saying, like, do that thing that you said you were gonna do. It's so simple and so powerful. Another thing that we do in men's groups is we bring the energy of challenge. Now, challenge energy, fire, many of us experience that when we're boys from other men, and it's difficult. It can be hurtful. I don't know how many people I know who have been wounded by men who, you go to this man for praise, and he shuts it down and challenges it. He brings his challenging energy, perhaps at the wrong time. I don't know how many people I know who have had A's on report cards, and they went to a male figure in their life and said, hey, look, I got an A. And that male figure said, why didn't you get an A+? Or what was it that got you an A instead of an A+? And I think a lot of times intentions are good there. Men tend to communicate with challenge naturally. We want to make things better. We always want to make things better. I mean, we do that through challenge a lot of the time. The problem is it ends up wounding people when it's not used in the right way or at the right time. And so a lot of us have wounds with being challenged by other men, especially if we weren't involved with the right kind of martial arts or sports, or a father who knew how to use challenge energy. So in a men's group, we practice that with each other. We practice bringing a healthy, challenging energy to other men. Like, hey man, rise up. You can do better with this particular thing. You can achieve this thing. Or I call you to do this at a higher level. And also with competing in a healthy way with each other, without it being a schoolyard bullying situation where someone gets singled out. These are all very healing things, and they allow us to integrate our masculinity, shed our shame, and assume our roles as leaders and as men and as good fathers. So that's one of the things that we bring in men's group that is largely understated a lot of the time, is this energy where we're healing our wounds, and it's allowing us to step into manhood because we no longer resent it. If we're resenting men because they hurt us when we were younger, because we got hurt in the schoolyard, we got hurt in the home, or in my case, a lot of the time I got hurt by my brother in the home, we tend to avoid really stepping into being a man and into being a father, perhaps, or being a leader. And so when we heal this stuff, it really allows us to move forward and into that next step. Here's another one, and this one's pretty obvious to most people. Feelings. Men growing up, we often have bumps in the road around understanding our feelings and feeling safe to feel them, knowing how to deal with them when they come up. Really like mastering our feelings. Many of us have a lot of trouble with this. And one of the things that we do in men's group is we navigate that and we teach each other the way. We show each other the way. And a lot of that has to do with allowing your feelings to occur, and then the group sets a safe space for that to occur, and we reinforce that for each other. One of the things that often happens when a guy joins a men's group is in his first bigger share, in our group, we get him to share about his dad and his story with his dad. And half the time, what happens is some feelings come up because we've all got feelings around our dad and the story with our dad. And half the time, the guy says, "I'm sorry, guys." And he starts to shut down, look down at the floor, and he apologizes for his feelings. And we always say, "No, man, stop that. Don't apologize for having feelings. This is totally appropriate here. It's very normal and it's okay. Just keep going." And I think that right there is very liberating, and it's the beginning of the work that happens where guys learn to just feel their feelings and express them to each other and not be afraid and ashamed. And that is magic.